Let's get ready to rumble!
The gloves are coming off.
Do you believe in miracles? Yes! Unbelievable!
We're about to go full court press.
Oh, a spectacular move by Michael Jordan!
It's time to play ball.
Malone looking for his first hit of the year. He drives one! Deep left field! That goes Upton! Back near the wall! It's out of here! Bartolo has done it! The impossible has happened!
Listen in as we tackle everything in the world of sports right now.
Stay off the weed!
Throw your hat in the ring at 516-572-7440. This is WHPC Sports Talk on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC.
And Brian Dable plumping his fist to the crowd. There it is. The final score, the Giants 38, the Colts 10. And the Giants will make it to the postseason as the 6th seed. Nobody, and I mean nobody, thought this Giant team could do that this year. But they've earned their 9th victory, and they're going to the postseason.
You heard it there from Bob Papa, the voice of the New York Giants. You lying to yourself if you thought the Giants were going to clinch the playoffs. And not just clinch the playoffs this year, but clinch it with a week to spare. How about that? Giants fans, this one's for you. Jets fans, we'll get to y'all in a little bit. But welcome to the Monday edition of WHPC Sports Talk on the voice of Nassau Community College. 90.3 WHPC. Your host for today, Joshua Umahi, joined by Ross Levine and Frantz Compare. I'm surrounded by Giants fans. How are we feeling today?
Feeling great, Josh. Feeling great.
Feeling great. I'm feeling better at the Giants than I do these crappy Knicks over here.
How you gonna call them crappy?
I see the collapse coming. I just saw Brunson miss 2 free throws. And I hear the boos, even though I don't really hear. I still hear the boos of like, here we go again. But I'm happy for the Giants though. The Giants, that game, they did make me sweat, and that was great. That's what they needed.
Yes. Absolutely. How about the first win for the New York Giants that wasn't a one-score game?
Yo,
right.
Coming in the clincher.
Let me tell you something, bro. We spanked the Colts. We spanked the Colts. That was a spanking I was not expecting. It brought me back to parent-teacher night in 5th grade. I remember that one. that one's gonna stick with me. I wasn't sweating. I was chilling. Enjoying the game. Great vibes. I like what I seen from Saquon. You know, he didn't have no breakout game, but 4.8 a carry, 58 yards on 12 touches. He did what he had to do. He did just enough. Defense absolutely brought the wood. Landon Collins balled out, had some big tackles, had that 52-yard pick 6. That's what I like to see. Xavier McKinney, you know, with the broken hand, he probably missed out on an interception, got head tapped early in the game, which that was a moment where I did sweat. I'm not going to lie. That's a moment where I did sweat. I'm like, please don't lose to the Colts, bro. We got some random dude out here mossing our starting safety. But what else? DJ. Oh, man, bro. He was doing it all. He was dropping dimes. He was running. I wish he would slide a little bit more and not get hit.
Yeah, he be going shoulder first and head first sometimes.
Yo,
like, you need to take it down a notch.
He's psychotic. I don't know what's up with him, but receiving room did what they had to do. Richie James, you know, his wishy-washy play. Sometimes he's out there looking like, I don't know, wide receiver number 1. Other times he's out there looking like a NPC. But we got Isaiah Hodgins, fan favorite of mine. His stock is slowly rising. He did his thing. Overall, I'm just happy with this whole team and how they performed. It was a great Sunday to watch some New York Giants football.
Yeah, it was. I mean, Jones was unbelievable. Probably maybe one of his best games of the season. And you could tell too with Jones, he's getting better as the season goes on, as the games get bigger, and that's what I appreciate. Also, he doesn't turn the ball over anymore. That's what I've always been concerned with Jones about, is the turnovers. He's cleaned that up entirely this year. And listen, Dable and Kafka, they called it a great game. They did. The first quarter, not the best start, but second quarter, 24-0, they outscored them. 24-0. I mean, when's the last time we've seen this team score 24 points, let alone in a game, but in a quarter, in a half? It was the first time they did that in a half at home in a decade. That's how long this has been. That's how awful this offense has been over the last 5-6 years, no matter who the quarterback has been. So to the fact that we saw that, and then, of course, to top it all off, the Landon Collins pick six, that just put the game away.
Bro.
I
almost shed tears.
If you want to talk about poetic moments and shedding tears, Frantz, like that was, you talk about a full circle moment, because the last time the Giants made the playoffs in 2016, obviously Landon Collins was a big part of that.
Mm-hmm.
He goes to Washington, kind of falls off the map a little bit, but he comes back. He comes back to the Giants this year, has a big moment against Washington earlier, and then to cap it all off, in the game that clinches the first playoff seed for the Giants in 6 years, he comes up with a pick six. You can't make it up.
You can't make it up. But that's the season that we've been having, though. It's been that type of year where it's different players stepping up, guys that weren't on the roster step up, practice squad guys. And, for an example, Isaiah Hodges is a perfect example, right? He was on the practice squad. He didn't start the season. Dable knows him well from Buffalo. But, he wasn't on the roster, and Landon Collins wasn't on the roster, and these guys that they just come out of nowhere, they've gotten the most out. And that's where you got to give Joe Shane credit for his scouting. The scouting and getting, and also for Dale getting the most out of these players. Like, this is why our future is really bright, regardless of what happens in the postseason. Like, we have overachieved, and now this is gravy. We make it, we made it. Like, that's already a successful season, more than what you could have expected. I thought this team would win 5-6 games, and this team has won 9 games. They're going to the playoffs, and they could play with house money at this point.
Yep, you couldn't have said it any better. You bring up a good point with the scouting. It's gonna be expensive to bring DJ back, which I do think we're gonna bring him back because he's been doing what we ask of him and a little bit more. And we're gonna have to spend some money next season to bring certain guys back. But the fact that we do have guys who understand how to scout makes our life much easier when it comes to that draft process, when it comes to undrafted free agents, when it comes to even finding diamonds in the rough in free agency, So that good scouting that we have in the front office is gonna definitely benefit us a lot. And Isaiah Hodgins, a guy, this is basically his rookie campaign, because in Buffalo he was under the radar. Although this is his second year, he didn't really get much burn, but he's a bright spot in our future as well. Richie James, I'm happy with what he's doing. If we could get that next big name receiver and keep Richie James as a true slot receiver throughout the whole season, I think that's where he would prosper the best. I wouldn't say necessarily give him up, unless we could get something that's way better than Richie James.
Well, they're going to try to do better than Richie James, I'm sure. They will. I think maybe they bring Richie James back as a depth piece, maybe a wide receiver 4, but they would like to improve at wide receiver 2 if they can. So that's, I would think. They're going to give Jones some help, assuming they bring him back. But that's what makes it more impressive, is that Jones is doing this with less. That's the thing. It's easy for these elite quarterbacks, he's been elite this year, Jalen Hurts. It's easy when you have an insane offensive line. It's easy when you have a guy like Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown.
Yeah.
When you have Isaiah Hodges and Darius Slayton and Richie James as your best receivers, and you're making this work, that just tells you how much the future is bright, how much Jones has gotten better as a quarterback.
And big shout out to Dable and his connection with Jones, because when you look at Brian Dable, he's not that coach that came in we're going to do it this way, we're going to do it my way. He looked at what he had, and he found a way to make what's best of what he had. He let DJ have some freedom in the offense, asked him what he's comfortable with, and from there, the rest is history, and now we're in the playoffs for the first time in years.
The first thing that you can tell, I never thought it would go this well, but you could, this set the tone early on the season, and Barkley even said after the game when they went for 2 against the Titans. That was it. That was the start. And also, I think this made Jones a better quarterback when Dable just chewed him out in that first game against Tennessee. Like, he was like that horrible interception he threw.
Yeah.
Like, and when I saw that, I'm like, there's no way this guy's lasting the season. And then after that, he got better, and from that point, he hasn't turned the ball over. And listen, the last 5 games, he has the best complete percentage in the NFL. Not just in the NFC, the NFL. So, I mean, that tells you something. I know he doesn't always throw the ball deep, but like that's pretty impressive considering the receivers that he has.
Yeah. Couple of things that you guys said, and obviously you guys are making great points about your team. And while I do this, I want to open up the phone lines at 516-572-7440. Giants fans, it's your day. Let's hear from you. Your team made the playoffs for the first time since the boat pick. So, but first, Frantz, you brought up Joe Schoen and his scouting. Remember the Odell Beckham thing a couple weeks ago? Everyone was like, yo, the Giants could really use Odell Beckham Jr.
Yeah.
We weren't sure whether he was going to go to Dallas or come back to the Giants or Buffalo maybe, but lo and behold, he doesn't sign anywhere. But the Giants did something sneaky where they got Isaiah Hodgins. Joe Schoen from his old stop in Buffalo got Isaiah Hodgins from the practice squad, and look what this guy's done. Mm-hmm. So if you really want to take a sneak peek into what this offseason is going to look like for the Giants, Joe Schoen's ability, I mean, we saw it in Buffalo all those years when they drafted Josh Allen, and then how they built it up to a championship contender. Like, his ability to find those diamonds in the rough,
yeah,
like you're gonna have the big money signings like every GM makes, but that's what set Joe Schoen apart. Mm-hmm. That's what set him apart in the interview process. Because John Mara, like, he was in a position where you had Dave Gettleman and Joe Judge. Oh, like, you can't follow that up with another disaster. So he really had to lock in and be like, what do I want in the GM? And Joe Schoen, in the offseason last year where he didn't have that much money to shift things around, Isaiah Hodgins is a big move, so I got to give him credit for that.
Yeah, he doesn't like, we all knew, like, when he first came here, and Joe Schoen even realized it too. Like, he didn't have a lot of cap space. He just didn't. He had no cap space. He had to cut guys because he couldn't afford them. Like Bradbury, he had to cut him because they couldn't afford him. Not because he didn't like him, but because he couldn't afford him.
Right.
But they looked at it and saying to themselves, okay, we're going to try to win. We'll try, but don't expect much. And look what happened. They year one of a rebuild, when this was supposed to be a season where you're probably going to be looking to take their quarterback. It was probably going to be a year where they're going to take their receivers, cutting their own players, and also remember this too. This is not their own scouts. Remember this. They did not know they were going to get this job.
Yeah.
And I'm if you think about it, because Joe Schoen was still in Buffalo, and the assistant GM Brandon Brown was still in Philadelphia. These were not their scouts. They didn't know they were getting this job. So now they have their own scouts, and that's why it's going to get even better, because they're going to have their own people in place, and they're going to get their own receivers, and they're going to have their own fingerprints on the roster.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead, Frantz.
Yeah, I think Ross makes a good point. With them coming into something they had no idea they were coming into, and I think this offseason is going to be not only them showing us what they're going to do when they're in control and in their driver's seat, but it's also going to be a big step for development, because we have young guys firing on all cylinders like Hodgins, Bellinger. Bellinger was a great pickup for us.
Yeah, fourth round.
Yeah, so those two guys right there are going to be big bright spots of this offense. I like Gary Brightwell too.
He's good. He's underrated.
Yeah, I think he's underrated. He doesn't get a lot of touches as a back, but when he does, I feel like he makes the best of his touches. So I feel like he's going to be a good developmental player. Hopefully he could help us somehow, some way next season if we do keep him around. But
here's the funny thing, and Ross, you brought up Daniel Jones. So this guy, and you look at the stats, and I argue with some of my Giants fans friends about this, because some are still convinced that Daniel Jones is just not that guy. And I guess it's still up in the air considering if you think he's going to be a franchise quarterback, but I know you read the stats, it's 3,200 yards, 15 touchdowns, 5 picks, 92.5. It's good. 15 touchdowns in he's played 16 games now. Like,
well, that's improvement right there. He's played all the games.
It is. So you look at that, but you got to look deeper into the numbers too, because this guy has 6 games with a plus 100 quarterback rating. If you want to go even more and take it down to a 90 QB rating, he has 9 games. So that's pretty damn good. I mean, Frantz, you talked about it yesterday. 19 of 24, 177 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 more touchdowns on the ground and making something out of nothing. And I don't mean to, crap on Richie James and Bellinger and Hodgins, but you look at the weapons around the league, like it pales in comparison.
Yeah, they're not. They're probably a bottom 3 wide receiving core in the NFL. They are. Yeah. But, I mean, I would say you could argue probably the worst. I mean, what wide receiving core is really worse than the Giants? I mean, it's not really much of an argument. I mean, like, who really is the worst? I mean, the Giants right now. Because if you really look at it, their best wide receivers, Isaiah Hodgins, and he came off of a practice squad.
I would say only the Texans would be worse, just off the top of my head. But they have, like, Brandon Cooks, a multiple-time All-Pro, and they're 14-1 now.
Right. So like, that's of course. So, like, you also have to, you got to remember, this is not a work in progress offensive line as well. It's not an offensive line. It's still very young. Evan Neal's had his struggles. He'll get better, I think. But he's going to get better. He's struggling, but he's a rookie.
Right.
So the interior line has not been good. We all know that's a work in progress. And Evan Neal is a work in progress. So you have that, and you don't have the great wide receivers. And yet, look how great Jones has been this season with all that. So imagine if you give him some talent at those positions. If you give him talent, you know he's pretty much the guy. I think he's gonna be back next year. He's gonna be back.
I think it's a slam dunk now. Like, there's no way you can't bring him back if you're the Giants. Yeah. And you had the report pregame that I noticed from Ian Rappaport of NFL Network that was saying they're going to offer multi-year contracts to both Saquon Barkley and Daniel Jones. And that was the big question coming into the year.
I never thought he'd be saying that, or they'd be saying that.
Yeah, it's because you thought Saquon was going to get traded.
Yeah.
He's going to, like, rehab his trade value, and then around week 9, week 10, he was going to be gone. Maybe to Buffalo, maybe to Tampa Bay, a team like that. And then Daniel Jones, they declined this guy's 5th-year option. They didn't believe this. They didn't believe this was going to come out of it. This performance from Daniel Jones this year, no chance.
No, they were like, we hope he's good, but we're probably going to think of somebody else.
Yeah.
So, I mean, again, this is what happens when you have good coaching. You get the most out of your players, and listen. Joe Judge, Pat Shurmur. I mean, well, Shurmur kind of did, I guess, but Joe Judge just was so conservative with Jones. He just was, and you've seen at the end of the season, Daboll's trusted Jones a lot more, and that's a big thing too. I mean, against Washington, he asked Jones to do a decent amount, pretty decent amount. Even Minnesota, he asked him to do a lot. He asked him to do a lot, somewhat even here, even though he only had 22 pass attempts. So. You have the ball in his hands. You're allowing him to win or lose you the game, and right now he's winning you the games. So you have to give him that credit. And listen, it's not all about stats too. Like, how many great third down conversions has he made? He's converted a lot of them. Look at the game against Washington, 4th and 9. The ball's in his hands and he gets the throw. Yeah, those don't go in the stat sheet, but those are big throws and big games.
Yeah.
Here's the funny thing about the Giants now, because I think a lot of people are still kind of looking at the Giants like the little engine that could, like just happy to be here. But if you look kind of close at the playoff picture, you were in the 6th seed, you're locked into that.
Yeah.
There was a game where the 3 seed now, the Minnesota Vikings, they got the ass whooped by the Green Bay Packers. I mean,
they're so fraud.
Yo,
they're fraudulent. We know this.
Shout out Jair. Shout out that boy right there. He got it back in blood for us.
Even I don't know if you ever heard of him on radio. Gordon Damer. You ever heard of him?
Yeah.
Even he said the Vikings are frauds. He's right.
No, they are undefeated in 1-score games, and you look at that on its surface, and it's like, oh, okay, they could win close games. They're battle tested when it comes to playoff time. Their 4 losses have all been by double digits, and then this one by 24 points.
Yeah,
and that was with the garbage time scores, because they got 41-0 at one point throughout this game. So you look at that. Guess who the Giants are slated to play in the 3-6 matchup right now?
They play Minnesota.
Yeah. You're going to tell me the Giants have no chance against Minnesota?
I mean, we already showed people how we get.
Oh, of course. I mean, we came out to that 61-yard field goal. I mean, listen, win or lose, this season's a success. Well, even if they really lost to Minnesota, like, it's great if we win it. That's added gravy. If you don't win it, it's okay. But because Minnesota, yeah, they're fraudulent. They're still a 12-win team. They're obviously there. And listen, I don't. There's no excuse to get blown out like that. But I wonder were the Vikings even trying. You're in the playoffs. You won 12 games.
No, because they were still playing for playoff seeding.
I know, but like you're already in.
Listen, that frustration from your star wide receiver, not only on his poor performance as a receiver, but them getting cooked. Yeah, they were trying. I seen the frustration on their faces.
No, Jefferson was trying. No question. No question. Jefferson was trying because he look at his emotion. Cousins was probably trying. He just sucked.
Yo,
you're not wrong. And Justin Jefferson, we're talking about him now. Like he's right on the doorstep of like the greatest receiving yardage season ever. Mm-hmm. So he was definitely trying out there. But Frantz brought up Jair Alexander, and he had plenty of help behind him. Both their safeties. He had a lot of safety help throughout the game, but both of them had interceptions, Amos and Savage for the Green Bay Packers. I wish Nico was here to talk about it, but listen, the Packers defense came up big and kind of reminded us, I think a lot of people know, but they definitely reminded us, the Green Bay Packers, how fraudulent the Minnesota Vikings are. So if everything holds up in the NFC playoff picture, that's who the Giants would play in Minnesota. But if you even look next week, it's funny because for weeks on this show we talked about the Giants have a rough schedule to end the season. Like they play the Eagles. Yeah. The only way they'll beat the Eagles is if they rest their starters. Yeah. Well, look at the interesting flip of the script here, because now the Eagles, because my Saints threw a monkey wrench in things. Yeah, they beat Gardner Minshew, and now it's the Eagles who have to play their starters, and the Giants who can rest their starters. So it's just funny how that flipped.
It's funny how that played. I mean, if you listen to Dave after the game, he was like being asked, "Well, you're gonna rest your stars in last week." Like, no.
I love that.
I love that too. Yeah.
I love that, and I was asking some of my Giants fans friends, like, "Yo, like that you're in the playoffs. You know what seed you're gonna be. Right. Do you rest your starters?" And they were like, "No, there's no reason to play them." But I'm like, "Hold up," because we saw Todd Bowles and the Buccaneers, who just clinched the playoff spot yesterday too. They said they're gonna play their starters against Atlanta in a meaningless game.
Well, it makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, I know they won their division, but they haven't been all that good. Come on, like they came back in games.
Exactly. So it's another. It's another game to kind of like round yourself into gear and get fresh and work on things for the playoffs, because you know you're going to be there. Why rest and take a week off when you know you're not playing your best football?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes. And look, listen, for the Giants, I think in particularly teams like the Giants, maybe even Tampa, you need momentum, I think, going in. Like, if you're the Chiefs, you don't need it because you already know what you have. But, like, the Giants, they haven't been there before in a while, so it's important for them to get momentum.
And you think about it, too, like, the Eagles, like I said, they have to play their starters because they haven't even clinched the 1 seed yet. They haven't clinched the NFC East crown yet. So it's a good... Look at the opportunity here for the Giants. If people say you're not that good, you can show it against the Eagles team playing for everything next week.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And honestly, play your stars. Like, even if you lost, like, at least you put out, you show a fight. All right, maybe you lose by 10 points. At least you kind of see where you're at with them. And listen, the first game against the Eagles at MetLife, that was awful. We all know that. Yeah. But why not have a little bit of revenge? Make them work for it.
Listen, if we come out guns blazing against the Eagles when we play them, or even just better from what we did last time, whoever we come across in that first round, I think is going to be in a dogfight with us. I don't think we're just going to be a pushover, oh yeah, Giants out first round type of team. I think it's going to be a dogfight to the end because, like you said, momentum is very important. If you get in a dogfight with one of the best teams, or possibly the best team in the NFC East, then you're going to put people on notice.
Yeah.
It's a great opportunity for the New York Giants. And like we said, first time since the boat pick 2016, maybe people can stop tweeting that. Like, the Giants are in the playoffs for the first time in 6 years. You got to give credit to Brian Daboll, who's my front runner for Coach of the Year. Joe Shane, year number 1. Even if, like you guys said, Joe Shane couldn't do a lot with the cap space situation that Dave Gettleman left. The way both those guys I just said, Daboll and Shane, the way they changed the culture, not just the culture, but the narrative around the New York Giants in year number 1. You're talking about, because when GMs and coaches get hired, you're talking about like a 3-year, 5-year program. They did this in year 1.
Yep.
Yeah.
With little talent.
It's only going to get better.
That's the scary part. It's only going to get better. And that's the thing what people need to realize when they're watching this team. And also, I think when you look at when we made the playoffs in 2016, although that was nice, it was never sustainable. Like, this is sustainable because we actually have young talent, and we're building something where that team you knew was a couple of years and they were going to be garbage afterwards.
The Giants are in a great spot, and you look at the teams in that division. Like, I'm looking at the Eagles and Cowboys, but the Commanders, like,
Ron Rivera.
We'll get into them in a little bit too. But we have our first caller of the day on WHPC Sports Talk. Caller, who are you? What you want to talk about?
How about those New York Giants? This is Corey David.
See, I'm surprised. I'm surprised, bro, because I thought you were going to call up like right away, like right when we started the intro. You were a little late, my boy, but congratulations to your team for making the playoffs.
Hey, they played phenomenal. I like Dave. Look, now I'm not going to say he deserves a long-term contract because I seen that was floating out there. But like I said, he played himself another year or two.
So what kind of contract would you give Daniel Jones if you don't want to give him a multi-year, like 3-4 year deal?
I keep saying I'll franchise tag.
Nah,
you can't.
He's earned it.
Yeah, he's earned it. Yeah.
He's earned what?
To come back for a couple of years.
Did you see him play yesterday?
Hey, come on now. Look. Let's not get crazy. Let's not get crazy.
Oh.
See, Corey, this is why I like you, because Corey's he's a very optimistic Giants fan, but he's always going to find that one thing to like. He's not always going to be 100% in, especially with Daniel Jones. I mean, listen, he's had questions about him, but
he still has a lot of limitations. But what I want to see what he can do if they actually get him some adequate weapons. Yeah, like right now, I feel like yeah, we are currently building up to something. And I don't want to say this because this going to sound crazy and blasphemous. That this is where I might go crazy. I don't know why, but I always see the potential of like a younger Eli in him. I don't know why.
You know what? He's got the two opportunities next week against Philly, and then the playoff game, whoever they play, it'll probably be Minnesota. But he can kind of make that statement like, yo, like, Don't sleep on me. Like going into next year, he's gonna get weapons, yeah, but he's gonna get a multi-year deal from the Giants. But he can be like, "Yo, watch what I do these next 2 games and see what happens." He has a statement opportunity.
I want to see how the team gets. I want to see how the defense gets more healthier. I want to see if Adoree comes back. Just little things. I like the Landon Collins coming back home. Yeah, did you see this? Somebody said this weirdest thing. They said the last time the Giants has made the playoffs was when Landon Collins has a pick 6 for them.
Sheesh. Like I said, full circle moment.
I was happy about that. You know, Kayvon Thibodeau getting a little hate right now.
Oh, I forgot about that.
I'm happy you brought that up because, listen, he didn't know Foles was hurt, right? I refuse to believe he knew that Nick Foles was hurt.
Listen,
but
it wasn't like the thing is though. To his defense, he didn't even knock him out with a concussion, so it was a rib injury. Like he was getting a celebration on, and then you had just Saturday talking about he mad that the offensive lineman didn't do anything. I was like, yeah, they should have got that get back. They didn't.
Jeff Saturday with the macho talk when you just lost by 21 points. Like I don't know about that, but listen, go ahead.
Oh, you can't say nothing when the offensive line literally let that hit happen. Like Thibodeau came untouched to the backfield.
It was a funny image, him watching Kayvon Thibodeau make a snow angel. Literally 2 feet from it, Nick Foles is writhing in pain. And then when he gets to the sideline, Nick Foles is still on the field, and then Kayvon Thibodeau doing the go-to-sleep celebration. Like, yeah. I don't know. That's why we like Kayvon Thibodeau, though. He's got a lot of personality. He's going to talk his smack. He's going to back it up on the field. So what's there not to like?
Listen, bro, my take on the situation, at first, I was like, nah, he didn't see him. But as a Giants fan saying this, I do think Kayvon knew in the back of his mind, because he was right next to him. And in the video, you see he takes a little peek over. So I do think Kayvon was bugging a little bit, but at the same time, like...
No, Kayvon knew, because if you notice, after the game was over, he had posted a video, I'm not sure if it was on his Twitter or his Instagram, where it was Patrice O'Neal talking about when he can knock somebody out in a game.
Oh, I didn't even see that. I heard about it, but I ain't see that.
Yeah, I was like,
Yo, Kayvon is a psycho, yo.
But
All right.
honestly, bro, like,
psycho.
honestly,
That's
bro,
true.
I think, like, bro, y'all so mad, y'all should have just popped him on the field. Y'all ain't do nothing about it. That's my take on it. Like, if somebody take your QB out and they feeling themselves, bro, you got to go get it back yourself.
Yeah, and did you see Tate Crowder? He was like, good job. I'm like, oh yeah, come on, how you celebrating you wanted to get off this team?
Yo, he just wanted some minutes, bro. Please don't turn on Tate. He just wanted some minutes, and he wasn't feeling how they was using him, so they got him up out of there. I mean, he did repost our "we're in" picture that the social media team dropped. I seen that. So
Yeah, but I don't know how to feel about it. But like I said, I'm glad that Daniel Jones is getting his flowers currently, getting us back to the playoffs. People doubted me. People said I was crazy early in the season to say I want the Giants in the playoffs. I remember those people.
Yeah, Corey, I remember the show we did that one Friday. We were previewing the NFC East, and I was like, you said 9-8 from the jump, and I was looking at you like,
how DJ Khaled would say, they didn't believe that the Giants could make it, but Corey did.
hey, man, you deserve it. You was behind the Giants from day one. You definitely deserve this day, Corey, so shout out to you and your team.
Everybody was talking about, the Jets was going to have a better season. I still need to get some jerseys off somebody from a bet I made.
Ooh, I forgot about that. The
Jets, man. It's a sad situation.
we going to get to them next, but thank you for the call, bro.
All right, man.
All right, Corey.
Let's go, Giants. Let's see if we can make a good little deep run.
Let's see.
All right, we'll see from the New York Giants, and let me remind everybody real quick that you are listening to WHPC Sports Talk on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC. Joshua Umahi joined by Frantz Compare and Ross Levine. Final note on the Giants. We were just talking about Kayvon Thibodeau. This guy's a star.
Yeah, with Kayvon, yeah.
It's funny that Corey called up because I remember we did an NFL draft preview show. And we talked about the possibility of the Giants getting Sauce or Kayvon, or the Jets getting Sauce or Kayvon. And it was like, yo, these two guys, not just their game, but their personality, yo. Mm-hmm. Like, they can back it up, too. And being in the media market that is New York, like, they're really going to thrive in it. And that's what we've seen, especially from Kayvon Thibodeau. But we do have another caller on WHPC Sports Talk. Caller, what you want to talk about?
Talk about the Giants. How's that?
Sure.
One of the things that went under the radar, but we, as Giant fans, we realized, is the way they the way they handled Galladay. Basically, if you're not going to be part of the team, and just even though you're making $17.5 million a year, we got other guys that'll step up and do the job for you.
I mean, yeah, it's what I talk about with Brian Daboll in terms of changing the culture, too, because I think past regimes would have just been like, look at Kenny Galladay's contract, like, we have to play him because he's one of the highest paid on the team. Mm-hmm. But I've always looked at that kind of situation like, nah, play the guys who are playing the best.
And look, even though he was making that money and they're disciplining him the way they are, they still gave him chances to show out. They gave him chances, whether it was limited reps, they drew up the right plays, and Galladay, he gathered up a couple drops when you shouldn't be doing that. So I don't know what's up with him.
And if you look at the NFC, let's go to the playoffs and the AFC. The AFC is deficient in running backs. I know it's a throw type of, this is the way you put the points on the board. But the best running backs are in the NFC. And depending on, the weather conditions and whatever, as they always say, defense always travels well. So, I mean, again, who knows what's going to happen with the Super Bowl. But as far as leading up to that, I think the running game might actually take command as far as the NFC playoffs.
It's what wins in January typically. And I was just thinking about this. If you look historically at the teams that have won or at least gotten to the Super Bowl, the NFC Championship, AFC Championship, and the NFL in the past, it's always like who's running the ball well and who's stopping the run on defense.
Yeah, and let's not forget, again, especially with Giants, and over the decades, I can tell you the most important positions of the Giants on offense generally comes down to tight ends. Because, and again, the Giants have a couple of good tight ends. They have good blocking, and again, this is what has held the Giant team together in their good years for years and years.
you look at Daniel Bellinger on the Giants. Like, I'm excited, and I hope they play Minnesota because I think it's going to be an evenly matched game. I think that the Giants. I want to see Daniel Jones in a playoff setting with a guy like Daniel Bellinger. I know he's no even Jeremy Shockey back in the day, but go into in a hostile environment like Minnesota against a team you know you can move the ball against and see what happens. I want to see every single skill position player on the Giants. If they get good enough blocking, like how many points can you put up in Minnesota? Because you know that team's they're all offense, no defense. I'm excited to see that matchup. And if you brought up a tight end, like I think Daniel Bellinger can have a big playoffs. It's a big game.
I think so too.
Yeah.
And I'll let you go, but the funniest thing is, you know what the best-selling shirt in Lambeau is? They actually have one that people wear the shirt that says Vikings trophy case, and they show you an empty case.
No, that's pretty funny.
It's funny that even in a quote-unquote down year for the Green Bay Packers, and thank you for the call, Dave.
My pleasure.
In the down year for the Packers, Aaron Rodgers still going to own the Cowboys, beat them head-to-head, still going to own the Bears, still going to own the Vikings. I know the Vikings had that week 1 win. It was, the Vikings, they're making a statement. Aaron Rodgers is still the leader in the pack in that division.
That guy, I mean, I think he's staying in Green Bay his whole career. I don't think he's leaving.
Nico, if you're listening, I told you the Packers was going to win out. I told you Aaron Rodgers is going to stay there for the long term. I told you Jordan Love can bring his ass down to New Orleans because we definitely need him. But real quick before I get to the NFL news and notes, we had a busy week this week. I have to get to the New York Jets. Oh. So I said on Friday they had a revenge game situation on their hands with Geno Smith coming back. Mm-hmm. But then I forgot, like, Pete Carroll in 1994 coached the Jets for like 1 year.
Mm-hmm. He was a defensive guy too, coordinator and coach,
and got fired, and the players like Boomer Esiason weren't really happy with it, so he had a revenge game.
I know, yeah.
And then you remember the Jamal Adams trade. I know he didn't play yesterday, but it's a lot of connections between the Jets and the Seahawks that we saw yesterday. Mm-hmm. So I tell people you can do X's and O's all you want, but one thing you can't factor in the stat sheet with 2 NFL teams is revenge. The revenge factor. The Seahawks definitely had that yesterday. They stomped out the New York Jets by a score of 23-6. One stat really tells the story of this game. The Seattle had 198 yards rushing. Yeah. Kenneth Walker set the tone with that big 68-yard run to get the Seahawks in the scoring position. Eventually score a touchdown. Jets weren't able to get anything going on the ground with 75 yards rushing for the game.
This is what I'm going to say. You don't in the NFL. There's so many ups and downs. Sometimes throughout a game, there's a lot come from behind teams that come back and win. If things change, you knew at the start of this game was over. This is like you had a feeling, like you could predict like this game, like when Walker had that 60-yard run to start the game, you knew it was over. You just like the Jets, you knew they weren't going to respond and. The Jets are they're one of those teams right now where they need a quarterback, they need an offensive line, because that offensive line, say what you want about Mike White, because Mike White was horrible yesterday, they have no protection for any of these quarterbacks. That's a fact. I mean, they definitely miss AVT badly. Laken Tomlinson, Joe Douglas' acquisition, not a good one this year. Horrendous, honestly. And listen, I did like the signing, so I'm not going to get on him for it, but that linesman, it's been really bad. And listen, I know White was bad. I'm not blaming Mike White for this season because at the end of the day, it never came down to this game. The Jets should have been able to find a way to win prior to this game. And the fact that you're relying on a guy to come back from broken ribs to save your season is absolutely unacceptable. It's just unacceptable. So I don't blame Mike White. In fact, the guy that I blame the most is Robert Saleh and Mike LaFleur. Because those two guys are absolute. Their play calling is garbage. It's garbage. Let's be honest. So Mike White comes back. Still playing hurt, by the way. Still playing hurt. Coming back from the rib injury. Still has it. And you throw the ball 46 times. You throw it 46 times. You run it 17 times. Like really, that's what you think is the best chance for you to win. A guy playing through broken ribs to throw it 46 times. The Jets, Mike White, and the Jets had no shot to win this game. That's a fact. So, yeah, the running game may not have been the best. It started away from it. They got away from what was working. What ain't broke, you don't fix. They decided to do something different, get cute, and it killed them. And it killed them the last few games.
I'm going to expand on that point because it's funny. The question I was going to ask you two was the blame game. Who deserves the blame for the Jets' collapse from 7-4 to 7-9 now? Maybe going on 7-10. You got a tough game in Miami, and you bring up Mike LaFleur, and I wanted to get to this because we just brought up the difference in rushing yards. But Shane Waldron, the offensive coordinator for the Seahawks, completely outcoached, outclassed Mike LaFleur in this game because you're talking about. What's the strength of the Jets' defense? Their cornerbacks, Sauce Gardner, and the guys back there, DJ Reed. Like they have a very talented corner tandem. So how are you going to combat that if you want to throw the ball? Oh, use the tight ends. Throw it to Parkinson for a touchdown.
He was going crazy.
Noah Fant had some good catches, and they drew to another touchdown. Their third stringer for another touchdown.
Just got elevated off the practice squad.
It's a good game plan. Mike LaFleur's game plan was just to, like Ross said, let Mike White just throw it around when you're already down double digits and abandon the run. And I know the offensive line is kind of patchwork right now, so you weren't going to really establish the run that well anyway. But, I mean, the Seahawks, they had a middle-of-the-pack defense. I know they have Tariq Woolen in their secondary, but their defense is young like the Jets are, but the Jets are way ahead of them, and it's just funny how the script flipped with the Jets getting really shut out for most of the game. And if you want to point to the downfall of their season too, like we all know it's the quarterback.
Yeah.
They weren't able to move the ball and get good quarterback play, whether it's because of Zach Wilson's incompetence or Joe Flacco needing to find a retirement home and get a life alert badge or Mike White having broken ribs.
Mike White, broken ribs. Yeah.
So you look at it, here's what not having a quarterback does to your team because it starts a ripple effect.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't have a quarterback who can move the ball, get first downs consistently, then your defense, I don't care how great it is, because we saw this with the Jets a decade ago with Rex Ryan. They had a great defense 2009, 2010. Eventually, Mark Sanchez kept stinking it up,
right,
and the defense broke down.
Exactly.
So we saw the exact same thing this year. Like the Jets were a top 10 rush defense for vast majority of the year, but now they're at 16th. Why? Because your defense is on the field all the time. All the time.
But you see, this is the problem where I have a little bit with the coaching as well. So the Jets had 10 days off to prepare for this game. 10 days.
That's crazy. I didn't even realize that.
And the first play, they run it at 68 yards. I mean, you give up 68 yards on a rushing play on the first play of scrimmage. Like, tell me how that's being prepared. It's just not. You're not prepared. Like, there's no. You want to say rusty? That's okay, but 68 yards, like 10 days to prepare, and that's what you come up with.
It's funny you say that because I remember. Obviously, we have Braden on the show, who's a Jets fan. We had Dom on the sports show. And I said Robert Saleh, he doesn't really strike me as a guy that's going to be like the highest compliment I feel he can give a coach is that a player can say about him, oh, we never feel like we're unprepared going into a game. I don't think Jets players can say that about Robert Saleh 100%. And, I got some pushback when I said that a few weeks ago when the Jets were winning, but you look at it now, and that's a great point, Ross. Like 10 days off from that last game in Jacksonville, and you come to Seattle, boom, first offensive snap of the game. The Seahawks are already in scoring position. And it's a big deal, this rush defense. I just got off the phone with Dave. Dave just called up, and we talked about, what did he just say? He said, who's running the ball, who's stopping the run best when it comes to December, January football.
Basically, like winning at the line of scrimmage.
Yeah.
Jets don't do that. They just don't.
So, to that point, Ross, you look at the Jets, they allowed just under 200 yards yesterday. They've allowed 150 yards rushing per game the last 3 games. They gave up, obviously, 198 yesterday, 147 against Jacksonville, 107 to Detroit. If you want to go back even further to when the losing streak started, 102 versus Buffalo, 128 versus Minnesota. They lost every single game.
Every game.
So it's that easy for the New York Jets. And like I said, the poor quarterback play, it's a trickle-down effect.
I like the fact that you guys bring up the rushing game because now I want to give my flowers to Kenneth Walker. I think that that choice right there by the Seahawks to pick up Kenneth Walker, first of all, you can't pass up on a guy like that because at Michigan State, he was literally the whole team. Then he comes to the NFL, and, you know, people are excited to see what he's going to do, and he just blows teams out the water. First off, that 60-yard run that he had against the Jets, he was like the Black Flash because they were talking about it. They were like, I think Kenneth Walker still has like the highest run speed where he's clocking in at 22 miles per hour. I did not know Kenneth Walker was this much of a dog. Like, he just has the patience. First off, on that big run, it was a cutback. You think like, oh, nothing's open, but he just waits. Hole opens up and he's gone. The acceleration, the patience, the toughness, the grit, like that's all in Kenneth Walker, and that's everything that you want in a running back. He does it all. I think he's a great player.
It's funny, Frantz, because I remember the draft period where the Seahawks made that pick and everyone was like, yo, what are the Seahawks doing? They need a quarterback. Why are they drafting a running back in the second, third round? Well, look at it. He's a stud.
He is.
That's why they're the experts and we're not.
We saw with the Jets. I mean, Breece Hall, when he went down, that was it. Their season was over. They had a running back. When you have a great running back, it does a lot for your team because you could open up everything up. It's why Geno Smith probably played a lot better as well. And listen, it's the Jets had bad luck when it comes to injuries, but I could already predict what's going to happen in the offseason, and that is LaFleur's going to be canned. You know, that's a fact. Woody's not a fan of him, actually, by the way. Not at all. And they're going to get Garoppolo. It's going to happen. So prepare for that, guys.
How much better is that going to make the Jets?
Well, the guy wins. They don't win.
Yeah, but they need a quarterback that's going to push the ball down the field,
Derek Carr.
But you know,
I don't want Carr after that. After what the Raiders did yesterday, no way.
Nah, because that's my point. Like you talk about the Jets, I want a quarterback that can, you know, test the second line of the defense, push the ball downfield. Jimmy G, we know he doesn't do that, but he wins.
Yeah.
And Derek Carr, like the funniest thing during last night's games was the 49ers-Raiders game.
Yeah.
Because this guy, Jarrett Stidham, walks in as the second-string quarterback against the best defense in the NFL and torches them. Just by pushing the ball downfield, giving Davante Adams a chance. I want whoever the Jets quarterback is next year, give Garrett Wilson a chance the same way the Raiders gave Davante Adams a chance yesterday. That's all I want. If you can't do that, then save the Jimmy G, save the Derek Carr, save guys like that.
Yeah, but you're not drafting a quarterback, though, so, like, where are you going to go?
Listen, are they really going to go the route of Jimmy G? I think so, because they don't really have much other option. But
I just think they're going to do it because of familiarity. I think because Saleh knows him well with the Niners, and that's I think going to be the reason. It's not what I would do, but they might do that. It's very possible.
Hey, however way you want to look at it, it's funny when the Giants were 7-2 and the Jets were 6-3.
7-4 even.
7-4. We were talking about what team has the best chance to not just make the playoffs, but when they get there, do something with it. And everything. I think most people unanimously said the Jets. And you fast forward 5 weeks later and look where we are now. It's just insane. The Jets lose 5 straight. The Giants win some tough games in Washington. They hung tough in Minnesota. They obviously get the big win against Nick Foles and the Colts yesterday. That's where we are. The Giants are in, the Jets are not, and both teams have, well, specifically the Jets. The Jets got some real questions to ask and answer because this was lined up for them, not just for a wild card spot, but for the division. When they were 7-4, they were 1 game back of Buffalo.
They were like tied with Buffalo.
They were tied with Buffalo.
Yeah, and it just fell apart. It just, again, with the Jets, I think they're going to make some changes with the coaching staff. I don't know who, but I think it's going to be somebody. I just can see it coming.
I can see the defensive coordinator maybe being the fall guy just because of the rushing stats I listed off. But like I said, that's all because of the quarterback and they can't move the ball.
Yeah,
so.
I think it's going to be LaFleur. I just had that feeling. the Jets got to bring in an established offensive coordinator. The Jets always do this, which is they try to pretend like this guy, all right, he's doing all of this, doing all of that. That means he's going to be good at being an offensive coordinator. Not the case. The Jets need to get a real offensive coordinator in there. Even if he was a failed head coach, just get somebody that has the experience. I mean, heck, I know he's probably out there, but you might even get fired this year. He was fired. Jason Garrett. I'm just saying that as an example. I'm not saying I want Jason Garrett. I'm just saying a guy like that, a guy that has head coaching experience, somebody that has a history of being a good offensive coordinator, somebody like that. Not Jason Garrett, but just somebody that's, like a head coach is about to get fired, but he's has a history of being a good offensive play caller. So maybe somebody like that. Because the Jets keep bringing in these guys that are never been OC before, and they expect them to be a good OC, and they're not.
Yeah, the Jets, I think Mike LaFleur definitely can be a fall guy. If you want to talk about blame, who deserves blame for the Jets missing the playoffs after starting 7-4 and then going on to lose 5 straight. I think you got to look at him, but they got a lot of questions to ask and answer. So moving on from them and their disappointment, and we'll talk a lot more about the Jets and Giants this week on WHPC Sports Talk, but for now, let's go to some NFL Week 17 news and notes. So the Eagles, I brought them up. They lost to my Saints 20-10. They blew their chance for the 1 seed in the NFC East crown, or at least their chance to clinch, but it's still up for grabs with 1 week remaining. The Eagles host the Giants and a chance to do that again, so we'll see what happens. The Green Bay Packers won their 4th straight game. They beat down the Vikings, like we said, 41-17. Vikings had a field goal to start their day, but Green Bay 41 unanswered points. And Justin Jefferson held to 1 catch, 15 yards against Jair Alexander and the Packers defense. Real quick on that. So I think Alexander, obviously he was talking big stuff in the post-game presser, but did a good job of jamming up Justin Jefferson, making life difficult, getting physical, but he had plenty of safety help. I mean, Adrian Amos and Darnell Savage had 1 pick each. Savage had a pick 6, but again, you frustrate a guy like that. When a guy's that talented and that great, you're never going to just stop them. Mm-hmm. You can only slow them down and try to frustrate them. That's what they did. So shout out to the Green Bay Packers. Winning their in next week against Detroit. So there's that. Also winning your in scenarios for the Jaguars and Titans. Obviously, they're going to play for the AFC South crown next week. The Patriots, Bill Belichick is inevitable. They beat the Dolphins. Obviously, the Tua controversy. The Dolphins, you talk about teams that have lost 5 straight. The Dolphins were 8-3.
Yep. Yeah, but at least the Dolphins, I don't know. The Dolphins at least lost their quarterback, and the guy was concussed. I mean, at least the Dolphins had excuses. The Jets, I'm just saying, the Jets had no excuse. The Dolphins, at least, you could make an argument. Okay, Mike McDaniels is a rookie head coach. I never saw 5 straight losses happening, but when you start whoever they started last week, Teddy Bridgewater, and then he gets hurt, and then you're putting somebody else in, you're going to lose. I mean, there's not much you can do about that.
Look, I said it last time I was on the show. Without 2 of these Dolphins aren't going anywhere. When you're relying on Teddy B to pull it out for you, not that Teddy B's we know, not to disrespect Teddy B. We know what Teddy B used to be about, but he's just not that Teddy B anymore. And when you rely on him to win you the game, then that's no bueno. It's not gonna turn out in your favor. I don't care what you tell me.
And even Teddy Bridgewater left with injury last game, and we saw anytime you see Skylar Thompson on the field for your football team, it's probably not going to end well.
It's not what you want.
Not what you want.
It's not what you want.
Not what you want. Moving on, though, the Patriots, yes, winning their in next week against the Bills, though. The Steelers moved to 8-8. They won a thriller on Sunday Night Football against the Lamarless Ravens. Mike Tomlin, talk about inevitable. Mike Tomlin got a chance to extend his streak. Never had a losing record. The Steelers with Kenny Pickett, little to no talent on offense, and the great defense as usual. You look up, how are the Steelers about to go 9-8? How?
Mike Tomlin. That's it.
There you go.
That's. I mean, Kenny Pickett at least had a couple of nice game-winning drives the last couple of weeks. Their defense is getting better. I mean, that's the reason. Mike Tomlin's my favorite coach. He's just unbelievable. I mean, what he's done with the core that he's had over the last couple of years, even when Roethlisberger got hurt in the first 2 weeks, I don't know how he does it. It's incredible.
This dude won games with Mason Rudolph. He's untouchable.
And
Mike
Dobbs.
Tomlin can't be touched.
Yeah, and Dobbs.
Insane. But, a tale of 2 8-8 teams, too. The Buccaneers, they clinched the NFC South. Yay.
Man, Tom, bro.
Inevitable. Even in a down year, they still... that meme where it's like, he can't keep getting away with it? That's how I feel about Tom. He just keeps getting away with it. But 430 yards, 3 tutties to Mike Evans, who they found their groove again. We'll see what they can do against Atlanta next week. And then they're slated to play the Cowboys right now. That's going to be interesting.
Bro, quick shout out to Mike Evans, because I seen a post saying, is Mike Evans, one of the most underappreciated receivers? And it really shocked me, because I think he is. I think he has 9 straight seasons with 1,000+ yards. And I feel like the reason he is super underappreciated is because he's not that guy that's going to bop you out your socks. He might head tap you here once in a while, but he just gets it done. He's not super spectacular player that's going to make highlight reels every game he plays, but he puts up numbers and stats, pads up the stat sheet. So quick shout out to him, because he's been doing his thing for 9 straight seasons.
Well said, but he's still Marshawn Lattimore's daddy. Shout out to Marshawn Lattimore with that pick 6, baby. I see you. First game back. Let's get it.
How did you react when the Saints won, but yet you were like...
Man, listen, because I want Dennis Allen gone, but... I'll always take a win against the Eagles now. Come on now.
I know.
I love seeing them. And the funny thing about Eagles fans is that they're booing in the first quarter. Your team's 13-2, now 13-3.
So ungrateful.
You're booing garbage.
L fan base.
Only the Eagles. They have a statue of Nick Foles. They'll have a they're booing your team when you have 13 wins already. Only the Eagles do that. That's why I don't like them.
Like I always say, they booed Santa Claus, so... The 49ers, though, moving on, they moved to 12-4, like we said. A great game in Vegas against Jarrett Stidham and the Raiders. They pull it out, though, 37-34. The Chargers moved to 10-6. They looking kind of dangerous. They won the Battle of L.A. against Baker and the Rams, the defending champion Rams, even though I can't really say that anymore. They're out of the playoffs. Chargers win 31-10. And the Chiefs, they barely just got by Mr. Broncos Country Let's Ride, Mr. Unlimited, Dangerously Good. It's spicy. The Chiefs stay alive for the 1 seed, along with the Bills and the Bengals, who play a huge game tonight on Monday Night Football. That's box office. Joe Burrow and Josh Allen, that is box office. So
let's be tapped in.
Yeah, we all going to be tapped in for that.
It's so crazy, though, with these Chiefs. They be having, close games with teams that they should not have close games with, and it's really upsetting me. What's going on here?
They're a weird team this year. They obviously have Patrick Mahomes. Anytime you have a top 2, top 3 player in the world, he's top 1 to me. Yeah. But they're going to win a lot of games, but they're really going to have to get that running game going. I've seen, even though Jerick McKinnon scored 5 straight touchdowns or something. Five touchdowns in 5 straight games. Touchdown in 5 straight games. Y'all know what I mean.
Yeah, we got you.
Yeah. But real quick on the news and notes in New York sports, the Knicks, we've been watching the game the whole time in the studio.
I'm so glad we got to this, because I've been watching this game and I've been frustrated with Ross because JB just out here missing free throws like it's his job. Randall's 9 for 9 and JB's 5 for 10. What's going on here?
He doesn't have that lift on his free throws anymore. It's that ankle's still I don't know.
Yeah, he's banged up, but the Knicks are up 88-65 against the Phoenix Suns. So we never know with the New York Knicks. Hopefully they close it out. And the Brooklyn Nets, they can extend their winning streak to 12 against the Spurs tonight at Barclays Center. Guess who's going to be there, fellas?
Joshua Umahi?
Yeah. I'm going to be there. Making my Barclays Center debut. I don't know.
Nets?
Listen, I'm doing some scouting, all right? I got to make sure they really that team.
Josh already took his trips to MSG.
Exactly. I got more than enough foam fingers to last me a lifetime, so I'll be watching the Brooklyn Nets now. I won't be rooting for them. I'll be watching them.
Okay.
I'll be watching them.
All right.
But we'll call it a show. From Ross Levine of Frantz Compare, this is Joshua Umahi thanking you once again for listening to WHPC Sports Talk on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC.